Welcome in another episode of the Gridiron Grind, episode 2 of the week, episode 2 of the season. Glad to be with you here today. I'm Krita. Jimmy, what's happening, buddy?
Nothing much, man. Excited. It's almost here.
Hey, we didn't
It's
address
almost
this.
here.
We didn't address this yesterday's episode, but the background upgrade this year. I mean, you're bringing a lot of life, a lot of color to your background to the show.
This is my life. Razorback football and my wife, keeping her happy. Baby girl loves wine, so And yeah, I say the same for yours, man. I love that. You got Dan Marino.
Yeah,
he escaped being kidnapped by Finkel, and then of course Major Applewhite.
Yeah, you got me that
Texas quarterback.
Yeah, you got me that. That was a sweet gift. Yeah, growing up, he was my guy.
Yeah,
he was my guy.
Nice European mounts there.
Yep. That was my that one is my first ever buck, and then that one was my first one at my new stand, new blind, new place where I had to put my blind. So
love it.
Yeah. A little color. So anyway, we're back on the grind. Episode 2, ready for some football. So excited. Week 1. We're back. We're ready to rock and roll. This weekend's gonna be great. It's my birthday on Saturday. I got a little volleyball tournament with my 7-year-old. Or not a tournament, that was last weekend. We got a volleyball game, 10 o'clock. So soon that should be over about 11, and then it's all football for me the rest of the day.
Perfect.
Good lunch, hang out, watch some football, just enjoy myself. Watch the Horns.
Love it.
Can't beat it. It's gonna be a great day. So let's get into the show today. We're gonna do our conference championship and playoff predictions real quick. We'll just won't spend too much time on these. Just kind of give you our picks, rapid fire. SEC, I kind of got a sleeper for you. Just because there's never the three-peat is hard to come by, and that's one of our questions, and I'll get into that. But I think we're gonna have an upset in the SEC this year. I think LSU is gonna beat Georgia in the game. A lot of people like Alabama. They forget LSU played in the title game last year. They beat Alabama.
Yeah,
played in the title game, and they got a lot of guys back. Brian Kelly, he's a winner. I like LSU upsetting Georgia in the SEC championship game this year.
I think that Florida State LSU game is going to be a statement game for both those teams. Florida State's got a lot of talent. LSU's got a lot of talent. I think that's going to be just like Texas, Alabama. I think that's going to be one team's trajectory upward. And I think that's where the other team, maybe the wheels start to really fall off. They could still rebound, but I think that's going to be a big blow to whoever loses. But I'm going with Georgia. Number 2 recruiting class in the nation. The transfer portal is very nice to them, especially at wide receiver position. They get Ra Thomas from Mississippi State, Dominic Lovett from Mizzou. Ra had 7 touchdowns, and Dominic had 3 last year. When you're starting a new quarterback, getting guys at the skill positions that can help him out. Carson Beck, of course, the junior's got to try to fill old man Bennett's house slippers. Big shoes to fill, though. Stetson Bennett, Major Applewhite. He's Georgia's Major Applewhite. Everybody loves him. They bring in guys. How many guys over him? And he beats them out every time.
What a story.
Stetson Bennett, Georgia legend. Carson Beck's going to try to become one and lead the Dogs. And I think Georgia is good enough to get it done.
So
I have Georgia wrong in the SEC.
Can't go wrong picking Georgia. The next 2 conferences we kind of addressed last week. We're both got a futures bet. Texas to win the Big 12, and we both have a futures bet from Michigan to win the Big 10. We talked about those our last episode, so we're good there. Going to the Pac-12, I think again we've talked about this, and you actually put in a futures bet for USC. They would also be my pick. I really like Washington. The Pac-12 might be the funnest conference to watch this year. Their top 8 teams in that conference. It's a travesty that they're getting rid of the Pac-12 basically, because this might be its peak as far as competitive balance. The top 8 teams are all really good, and it's going to be an exciting conference to watch this year. I also like USC to win it. I love Washington, but I think USC with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, they're the most complete team, even though their defense is atrocious still. That offense, I mean, it's just so good. It's hard to score that many points even on a bad defense.
Right. And so going back to the Big 12, like we said, we've already covered it. Texas, really, can Texas stay out of their own way? Can they not make mistakes? They had the number 3 recruiting class. You know what you've got waiting at quarterback. You know what you've got playing at quarterback. If the defense can improve, they were 28th overall last year. I think Texas can be elite, especially if that defense plays the way if it becomes as elite as everyone thought it was going to be last year. Going to the Big Ten, like we said, Michigan, Harbaugh has absolutely whipped Ohio State 42-27 and 45-23. Interesting. Can Ryan Day survive another beatdown? If they go to Ann Arbor and Michigan thumps them again, are we seeing maybe the end of the Ryan Day era at Ohio State? A lot of people will say, that's a little soon.
Crazy. They made the playoff last year.
Yeah.
Should have won. Should have beat Georgia.
Yeah. That if it's one thing, we're Sherman guys. If it's one thing, boy, you hate doing, it's losing to your rival.
Yeah.
And the way that Ohio State's been losing, I could see them making a rash decision and putting some pressure on Ryan.
They're so rational. They're so rational. These fan bases and everybody. Yeah.
But yeah, Caleb Williams in the Pac-12, like you said, the Pac-12 is going to be fun top to bottom. You're going to see a lot of it in the Big 12 too. Every team is going to give all these teams exiting. Texas OU in the Big 12.
Yeah.
They got new guys. I mean, everybody's going to be trying to just beat them.
Last time for a lot of teams.
With a loss. Same with USC. Caleb Williams obviously comes back. Can he repeat as the Heisman? I think he's the favorite so far. But their defense was terrible, and it didn't get any better. They were 94th overall last year, and they didn't get any better. Like I said, Utah and Oregon are going to be better. So I think USC has what it takes, especially with Lincoln Riley, and he'll be able to get them to win the Pac-12. Player to watch, Zachariah Branch.
Oh, what a game.
Wide receiver stud. What a game he had.
Against San Jose State.
58 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And a 96-yard punt return.
Yep. Stud. I think he was the number 1 receiver out of high school last year. Yeah, stud. What a pickup. Moving to the ACC, I see this as really a 2-team race, but Clemson, Florida State are your 2 favorites. Yep. Clemson's the favorite, but Florida State has a pretty tough schedule, actually. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Pitt, who's got a little bit easier schedule, maybe even makes it to the game over Florida State, just because Florida State's got a tough schedule in conference, and they got the toughest opponents on the road. I think Clemson wins. It's like a week 4 game, Clemson, Florida State. I believe it's in Clemson. I think Clemson wins that one. I think Florida State might drop a game or 2. They shouldn't, just because of the back-to-back road games and stuff. So, like I was saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Pitt makes the game, but I'm going to go with Clemson. Dabo figures out a way to win that conference. Since he's been on this run, there's only 1 year he didn't win it, which was 2 years ago, and they were really bad. Last year, he found a way to come back, win the conference. Dabo, say what you want about Clemson and Dabo, they find ways to win. I like him. I think they get it done. They probably won't be the best team, and it probably might not be pretty. I'm a big fan of Cade Klubnik from Austin Westlake, starting quarterback for him this year, but I'm going to go with Clemson to win the ACC.
Yeah, I agree. It's a 2-horse race, and I think if you put money on either one of these 2, I think it's not a crazy bet. Like you said, they're finally starting Klubnik.
Yeah, all year.
But I asked, is it too late? Is it too late? Because recruiting's about momentum.
Yeah.
And, they bring Garrett Riley over from TCU. TCU had the 10th ranked offense. Clemson had the 30th last year. But, it's going to be tough. They do get Shipley, the running back, 15 touchdowns, 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr., All-American. He does everything for that defense, led them in tackles for loss, and sacks. The other horse in this race, Florida State. 8 starters returning. The offense ranked 16th nationally, lost 2 on the O-line, brought in 3 transfers, one from Colorado, UTEP, and Auburn. They returned their quarterback, Jordan Travis, 3,200 yards passing, 24 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. He takes care of the football. Benson's back in the backfield, almost 1,000-yard rusher, 9 touchdowns. And the defense is back. The majority of that defense is back. The transfer portal, they beefed up the D-line. So I think if Florida State beats Clemson in that week 4, like you said, I think Florida State's in the driver's seat. I think they'll have the momentum to go through. And I think the winner of that game wins the ACC. But right now I've got Clemson because of what you said. Dabo's found a way to do it.
Yeah, he's done it. All right, so 14 playoff. Mine's going to be Michigan. I think they go undefeated. USC might drop 1. I don't see them dropping more than 1. USC's in there for me. Gonna have LSU because I got them upset in Georgia. But then I'd think if that's Georgia's only loss, or even if they had one more and there's a bunch of teams with 2, I think you put Georgia in there because they're defending champs and they're going for 3. So I got Michigan, USC, LSU, Georgia is my 14 playoff. And my national champ is going to be, I'm told you I'm high on it.
Who's in your final?
I got Michigan and USC in my final. So in that scenario, I'd have Michigan over Georgia and USC over LSU. And I told you I'm high on Michigan. I think Michigan wins the national championship this year. I'm saying they beat USC. So that's what I'm going with. Just because of the 3-peat, it just doesn't happen. It's happened once in the history of college football. And, I mean, it could very easily happen, but it's had opportunities before and it hadn't happened. So I like Michigan this year. So that's who I'm going with. Michigan over USC. All right. Who do you got playoff and national champ?
I've got not too much difference. So I've got Georgia because I have won the SEC. I've got Michigan because I think they're probably the best team in college football. I've got USC because I think they beat the Pac-12. This is where I kind of went a little wild. I went back and forth between Florida State, Clemson, and Texas. And I settled on Texas.
Oh,
because I think
giving me goosebumps.
I think Texas winning the Big 12, I think Texas may really surprise people offensively and come out and play. They may play ahead of where they're at. I think Sark, I think there's a lot of hype around Austin, and I think he's got the players to back the hype up. No more of this, we're back. I think Texas may actually be pretty close to being back. So I have them sneaking in the 4th spot because I think they win the Big 12 convincingly. And kind of the same reason I have USC. I think USC is going to put up a ton of points this year.
Yeah.
You got to put up points. If you're going to lose a game, which we think Texas and USC could slip up somewhere, you got to pass the eye test. And I think Texas finds a way to blow through the Big 12, make that 4th team. For my final, I have Georgia versus Michigan. And my champion, I have Michigan.
Really?
I think that inexperience at quarterback, I think Carson Beck, I think Harbaugh, this is his year. And then I think you might see Harbaugh jump ship. I also think if you see Brian Kelly, if LSU does what you think they're going to do, I think Brian Kelly's gone.
You think he would take the Michigan job? You think he would leave LSU?
No, I think Brian Kelly would go. I think you may have the NFL teams reaching out to Harbaugh, Brian Kelly. So, but yeah, Georgia and Michigan, and I think Michigan wins.
We both like Michigan. I tell you what, if that Texas pick, they make the playoff, I don't think the Shiner Spotswood Brewery in Shiner, Texas could make enough Shiner Bock for me. Because, I mean, you want to talk about an all-time high. If this Texas team, I went to the national championship game in 2005 with my dad, and then me and my dad and my 2 brothers went to the back to the Rose Bowl in the national championship game in 2009, lost to Alabama, got to high-five Vince Young. That was pretty cool. That's a story for a different day. And, I mean, it was an experience. But if we if Sark takes us to the playoff, I mean, there will be some Shinerbach consumed by yours truly.
Got it.
I hope
Got
it works. All right. We get to questions of the week. We got 3 questions this week. First one's for Jimmy from Joe Don from Coleman, Oklahoma. Joe Don from Coleman, Oklahoma. Jimmy, what would you do if Arkansas shocks the world and wins the SEC this year?
Ooh. Huh. Well, Joe Don from Coleman, I would probably shave my head, which
You got a good head of lettuce.
So I'd probably shave my head. I'll just shave off all my body hair.
You're gonna go streaking through campus.
Yeah, I don't know.
Through the quad to the gymnasium.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do.
Tell Snoop to bring his green hat.
Yeah, that's the type of evening I would have if we make it to Atlanta.
I'd let you borrow
make it to Atlanta.
Yeah. I'd let you borrow some of that Shinerbach that I'd have to buy.
I would need it. But yeah, I'd shave my head.
What a season that would be.
In a bathtub of Nair.
If we win the Big 12, you guys win the SEC. I mean, we'll have to do something on this podcast. Outrageous.
Oh yeah.
If those 2 things happen.
Might have to live stream the streaking. I don't know. But great question, Joe Don. I appreciate that. This one, Frida's for you. This is from the state capital. Fred from Austin. He has Twitter. He says, has there ever been a three-peat national champion in college football? And does Georgia make it happen this year?
So I looked this up. I did not know this off the top of my head. I thought the answer was no. Turns out, that's incorrect. The answer is yes. It's no in the AP era. But here's the story. The Minnesota Gophers are the only team to do it and have legitimate claim to 3 in a row. Minnesota Gophers, 1934, 1935, 1936. The 1934-1935 team went 8-0. Okay. In 1936, this was the first year ever for the AP poll. So the AP poll didn't exist for the first 2. They existed in 36. They selected Minnesota, who went 7-1 as the national champ.
Wow.
A couple other teams it could have went with, but the AP. So, and that's kind of everybody dates it back to the AP. So 34-35, I couldn't find anything that debated Minnesota winning it. They're basically the only ones that claim it. So, of course, there was a bunch of different polls back then. And so Minnesota, 34-35, 36. Army claims 3 in the AP era. I think it's in either the 40s or the 50s. But one of them is like the middle one, I think, is highly disputed. The AP selected Notre Dame. Notre Dame and Army played each other that year. They tied, but Notre Dame was 9-0-1, and Army was 8-0-1. So the AP selected Notre Dame. But here's ironically, Georgia that year was 11-0, and we're like 5th or 6th. So I don't know why the AP didn't give it to them. And they had wins. They had their last 4 games were wins over top 25 opponents in the AP. I don't know why Georgia didn't get it, but Notre Dame. But Army does claim 3, but it's not legitimate because it was in the AP era when everybody used the AP. And so, so Minnesota Gophers, I think, is the only one legitimate claim, 34, 35, 36, with 36 being the first year in the AP poll. Does Georgia make it happen again? I mean, we'll see. They got the talent, of course. I just think anytime you go through a quarterback change like that, Stetson Bennett was, your heart and soul carried you, even though you had all the other studs and the defense and all that. Quarterback's the biggest, most important position in any sport, in all sports. So I just think you change that. And if you're asking me right now before the season starts, it's hard for me to see a different quarterback repeating what Stetson Bennett did. So I say no, and we both just picked Michigan to beat them anyway. So great question, Fred from Austin. Next one's for Jimmy. Mark
Hmm.
from McKinney, Texas, via Twitter. Does Caleb Williams repeat as Heisman Trophy winner and become the second ever two-time winner?
Ooh.
Of course, the first one being
Oh man.
Archie Griffin, running back, Ohio State. He
Yeah.
won it in 74 and 75. And I mean, Caleb Williams is a favorite, but the Heisman's such a crapshoot. It's always
Yeah.
someone you don't really expect to win it preseason ends up winning it.
And I think it's also going to depend. Of course, we have USC winning the Pac-12 and making the playoffs. I think they've got to win in order for him. I think he's in the best spot. Obviously, he did the hard part, which was winning it once and staying in school. I think he's set up. I think he's set up to be the first since Archie Griffin to do it. You've got Lincoln Riley, offensive genius.
And how many Heisman Trophies winners has he had? Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray,
Tyler.
Jalen Hurts was like second or third, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't win it. But then
But
Caleb Williams. I mean, that's remarkable that he's had three quarterbacks. Three of his last 4 or 5 starting quarterbacks won the Heisman.
He's going to have to put up big numbers because for some reason, Lincoln Riley brought the defensive coordinator from OU with him out west, which is the last guy. I would have told him the bus was leaving the day after it was gone. But so that being said, Caleb Williams is going to have to outplay his defense because, and that's another thing, like I said, I think USC is going to score a lot of points this year. I think they're going to have to because they're going to have to beat teams. They're going to have to beat the brakes off teams because their defense got a lot of holes in it. And Caleb Williams, I don't know.
Maybe it's hard to find somebody else.
I'm going to bet
it's hard to find somebody else. It's hard to find somebody else you'd pick right now instead of Caleb Williams.
Yeah, right off the top of my head is maybe Penix at Washington.
Yeah, he led the country
better
in passing yards last year.
Right. Upperclassman quarterback coming back, experience. He was electric at Indiana, he's electric at Washington. I'm going to go with no, just because history says it's only happened once. And Tim Tebow arguably could have did it, and he didn't even do it. Yeah. So I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with no, Mark. I don't believe Caleb Williams will do it. History does not side with him.
Yeah. Okay, it's time to get to our week 1 bets. Week 1 is this weekend, and we got our famous bets. Of course, we had for a while, we were the hottest podcast in the world when it came to bets. We both finished over 500. I think I was 58%. I think you kind of last couple weeks kind of got some.
Yeah, they were getting me the last couple weeks.
I think you still finished like 51%. So
yeah,
as 52. A show, as a show, I mean, we had a great winning percentage, and see if we can pick up right where we left off. I got a Thursday game. So this comes out Thursday at noon, so you got to listen to it and get it in. Kent State at Central Florida, UCF, under 57.5. And I'll tell you, the reason I like the under, Tropical Storm Adela, the tropical storm, whatever, it increased intensity on Tuesday, and it is now considered a hurricane. Expect to hit the Florida coast Wednesday afternoon. So obviously not great conditions to play football in, not great conditions for offense. I like the under. It's going to be wet. It's going to be really windy. It's going to be muddy. Not great conditions. First game of the season. Could be a lot of penalties. I like the under 56. It was 57.5, but it got down to 56. So Kent State, UCF under 56.
That's a great point. That's something that you've really got to make sure you check each and every week, each and every game is the weather.
Yep.
When you see a line, you go, oh, that's way too low. Bang, I'm going to hammer it. There's nothing worse than hammering it, pressing place bet, and then you find out, oh, it's snowing. Oh, it's raining.
Another thing.
Now that over of 42 is nowhere in sight. So that's something great to mention there about the hurricane.
Another thing we got to talk about real quick is the clock rules are changing this year. Yeah. So it's more of an NFL clock. The clock doesn't stop after a first down until the last 2 minutes of the half. So you're going to see some lower numbers Vegas is probably going to put out. It's going to be a few points lower than usual. But don't just hammer the over thinking, oh, Vegas put out a low number. No, don't forget, clock rules change. We saw that in week 0. Almost all the unders hit. Keep that in mind as well. So it's going to be running clock. All right.
So for my first one, I'm going Utah versus Florida. I'm going Utah minus 6.5. Florida starting a new QB. Florida's got to go to Utah. Utah's going to be ready. Utah's trying to make a statement. Utah's trying to win the Pac-12. Cam Rising's back. Not sure if he's going to play. I don't think it's going to matter. Utah's going to be wanting revenge from last year. And I think Utah covers this spread, wins by 10 or more. Utah minus 6.5.
Nice. Yeah, Utah back-to-back Pac-12 champs. All right, my second one, Nevada at USC over 66. USC might score 66 points to begin with. And then if you get anything from Nevada, which you probably will because USC's defense, again, looked like they're not very good again against San Jose State last week. I love this over. Nevada at USC over 66.
I had that same one too, and I think you're right. 94th overall, USC's defense last year, 94th overall. They did not get any better. I agree with you. I think USC can score 60 themselves. And I know it sounds a little contradictory because we just said, unders and the clock.
Yeah, but
USC has one of the highest powered offenses in the game. They've in the nation. They got Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams. Certain teams, this clock, they're going to be able to get it out fast, hurry up, and put points on the board. USC's one of them. I agree with that over. And I also agree, I had the over on this next one. Texas and Rice over 59. I think Texas can almost cover this one themselves. Rice's defense was ranked 121st last year. And the last time I checked, they didn't get much better either. I think Sark's trying to send a message to not only the Big 12, the national media, and the SEC. We're coming. We're here. We're coming. We're here a year early. I think Texas Rice over 59 hits.
My next one, Illinois hosting Toledo. Illinois minus 9.5. I mean, you got a really good Big Ten school facing a MAC. I mean, if they can't win by 2 touchdowns, I mean, are you
clock
kidding me?
Management.
It's not like it's not a good team. I mean, Illinois is good. Toledo's solid. I mean, Illinois, you're a Big Ten team competing for the West at home against Toledo, and it's only 9.5. And while we already talked about Illinois last show about how much I think of them, I think they're going to hit their over. I think that number's too low. It should be closer to 14. I like Illinois at home against Toledo minus 9.5.
I like that. I went UTSA Houston, UTSA minus 1. Take UTSA. I love what Jeff Traylor's doing down there in San Antonio. Picked them to win the conference, and this is the exact win they need to get things rolling in the right direction. I really think it's a coin flip, and I like UTSA to win this game.
I love that one
that
too.
1 point.
Just a little look ahead. Coffee with Krita. That already got it down. That's going to be on Coffee with Krita. I can't open a week meet. I mean, that's a Coffee with Krita special right there. So love that bet. I got 2 more, both Sunday games. Rutgers versus Northwestern. Rutgers is only minus 6. All the turmoil that Northwestern had with Fitzgerald and everything that went on and got rid of him and the hazing. Rutgers can play ball now. Greg Schiano, tough team. I like Rutgers minus 6 at home against Northwestern. And then the Sunday nightcap, LSU, Florida State. What a game last year. LSU missed the extra point to lose by 1. I think they get revenge. It's going to be the game of the weekend. 2 top 5 teams. LSU minus 2.5. Gimme. I like LSU to win by a field goal over Florida State. High on Tigers this year. I like the Bayou Bengals.
I like it. I'm so excited for Sunday to get here so I can sit down and watch that game.
It's going to be a blast.
It's going to be a fantastic weekend. So yeah, I can't wait.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Gridiron Grind. Thanks for joining us this week. Next week, we'll be back to our regular schedule. Wednesday, the college football pod will drop. We'll talk about the games from week 1. We'll also give you a preview of week 2, big week 2, a lot of good games. Texas at Alabama, Baylor hosts Utah, Texas Tech hosting Oregon, Texas A&M going to Miami. It's going to be a great slate of games. So tune in next Wednesday. We'll have that college football pod. And then next Thursday will be our first Dallas Cowboys NFL pod of the season. That'll drop next Thursday at noon. We'll talk Cowboys, get our NFL picks in. And so you're not going to want to miss that. Also, don't forget, a lot of changes. Get over to gridirongrindsports.com, gridirongrindsports.com. Check it out. Subscribe so you'll get an email alert with any new content that's published. I think Jimmy's got his first edition of Jimmy G's Big 3 up on the website. Get over and check that out. First edition of Coffee with Krita also coming out this Saturday morning. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you again next week on The Grind.